Well, hi everybody, welcome to Afterburner. I'm Bill Whittle. You know, I've been watching the Washington kabuki since the election, and I find that things I used to feel were critical to the future of the country, things like out-of-control spending and voter fraud and debt default and foreign policy fiascos and all the rest of the clown car antics in the goat rodeo called Washington, D.C. Well, none of these things seem to matter to me anymore. Do you feel the same way? Watching these same drones that ruin this country's finances, pretending to go through the motions of trying to save it when not one person in this country, not one person, has any hope, desperate or cynical or otherwise, that this will in fact happen? Do you feel that same emotional disconnect as I do? President Obama has proven so far what I and many others long suspected and was evidenced in his printing of a last-minute picture book children's pamphlet a few days before the election, and that is, namely, he doesn't give one single hot damn about what he'll try to accomplish in his second term. The re-election was about his narcissism, and that alone. In fact, when the history of our time is written, they'll probably call it the age of the Unserious, a time of approaching fiscal disaster courageously led by a man on perennial vacation, this time back in Hawaii, where he spent his dope-smoking slacker life of leisure, while most of us serious people were out working to bank the money that he and the rest of these unserious people have just spent. Now, he'll be joined in this ongoing national comedy act by Harry Reid, a low-grade intellect with lower morals who has somehow mysteriously managed to become worth millions of dollars. Isn't that interesting? Harry Reid and his Democratic Senate have violated their oaths to the Constitution by simply flat-out refusing to fulfill their primary duty, passing a budget that the president and the rest of these criminals can then go on to ignore. In any other organization, they would have been fired for malfeasance of duty. In a healthy America, they would have been tried for treason, fined $1, and then fired for malfeasance of duty. The House of Representatives remains in the hands of Republicans, which is convenient for the unserious people in the Democratic Party's audiovisual department, otherwise known as the news media, since their attempts to stop this catastrophe can be conveniently blamed as the source of, rather than the attempt to prevent, the monumental collapse that's coming. Oh, and just so we're all clear on the fact that not all of this blame lies on one side of the aisle, does anyone out there know what John Boehner really believes? Is there anything he's able to articulate? Can the Speaker of the House of Representatives make the simple case for why all of these liberal taxes, regulations, and spending are the death of everything we hold dear? No, apparently not. The most prominent Republican in the government hasn't got the slightest idea of what the idea of limited government means, how to sell it, or how to defend it. These are not serious people. And so, what is left? Well, the giant vault of gold coins that Scrooge McDuck used to swim in, that would be the national treasury, a stockpile of wealth that took 200 years to accumulate, is, well, it's empty now. These miserable, unserious, criminally negligent, incompetent, immoral, reprehensible, traitorous swine have spent every last gold coin in those former mountains of wealth. That didn't stop them, of course. Then they started spending all the gold coins your children will make. But that wasn't enough for them either, not these addicts. Hey, you know how much cocaine a coke addict will do? All of it. So they spent the gold coins that your grandchildren will work their entire lives to make, and you'd think that'd be enough for these junkies, but you'd be wrong, because Obama, Reid, and, let's be honest, the rhinos in the establishment GOP have also spent, not will spend, but have already spent, all of the mountains of gold coins lent to us from workers around the world, and now we're running on spending the money of their children. No, this is not a government. This is a tumor. My friend Jeremy Boring likes to point out that the government of what was once the freest country in the world costs more money to run than the entire GDP of the #2 economy in the world, that'd be communist China, and their 1.3 billion state-controlled slaves. And most of this is in entitlements, by the way. You could pay for the actual government, that'd be park rangers, government buildings, the Department of Education, the entire U.S. military, all of it, and do it at a reduced tax rate, less than what we're paying now. But if you destroyed the entire government, burned every building, fired every government worker, sank every aircraft carrier, even with no government to pay for, none, we'd still pay the same taxes that we're paying today and still have to borrow or print money just to pay for entitlements. Unserious people, people in what my friend Evan Sayed calls the rhetorical industries, that'd be academics, organizers, reporters, and movie stars, people who pay no real-world price for being wrong, have spent all the money in the world, and they are killing the means for making that money again next time around. They don't care. They have their golf games and their $4 million vacations and mysterious bank accounts and their vacations in Spanish villas. And all that is left now, all that remains, is some unknown number of serious people who do not have a prayer for the future as long as we continue to tolerate these liars, idiots, thieves, and incompetents who have stolen from us in our own name. And if we don't recruit an army of serious people in the next 2 years, an army, and I don't care what party they align with, so long as they're serious people, then these liars, idiots, thieves, and incompetents will sink us all. And we'll have no one to blame but them. Them and the unserious idiots that sent them there in the first place. And those would be us.